Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator podcast. I'm your host, Dana, and today we are talking about In the City, Season 1, Episode 8, as well as Watch What Happens Live with Georgina, as well as the big threads fight between Lindsay, Hubbard, and Queens of Bravo this week. Let's get into it. Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope everyone's had a great week so far. I know that I have. It has been very hot here in Toronto, but very nice nonetheless. And I've had a pretty good week at work. So all good things. I hope you caught the Monday Reality Roundup episode. That was a pretty good episode. And then today, as I mentioned, we're doing In the City. And then tomorrow, I'm having an episode coming out with another content creator where we're basically going to be discussing the change in discourse surrounding Danny and Janet on the Valley, because there's obviously been a big change in how the fandom feels about both of these characters from last season to this season. And so I'm having someone join me to chat about that. So that's basically what you can get here on the Bravo Investigator podcast this week. But yeah, let's basically get into it. I really want to chat this show with you guys because, listen, I've been really enjoying In the City. I know it had sort of a slow start, and I know we were so focused on Summer House and everything that was going on there. But now that that is sort of tapered off, I'm really interested in these characters. I'm interested in getting to know them more. I like that as the episodes have continued, we have gotten to learn more about like their quirks and their mannerisms, and we just get a better sense of who they are. We're starting to like and dislike certain characters. And so I think this is a good show. I hope it's picked up for season 2. And I'm still just as interested in seeing where all of these people go, including the people that we knew before, right? I like the fact that we have Lindsay and Kyle and Amanda on this show because it gives us that familiarity of characters where it helps us sort of settle into a new show when you feel like, okay, well, I know so-and-so, or I like so-and-so. So I'm going to watch and I'm going to see, and then it helps you sort of get invested in the rest of the characters. So I'm here for it. I'm into it. Now, Summer House, which is our sister show of In the City, was recently nominated for an Emmy. So that's really exciting news. I feel like this whole scandal has so followed Scandival in so many different ways, including the Emmy of it all. But congratulations to Summer House. It's very well deserved. Now, the In the City reunion looks also came out yesterday. I put them up on my Instagram story. Maybe I'll just describe them sort of briefly in terms of chatting about them. I'm not a big like looks person, so I don't really care what people are wearing. Everyone looked beautiful and handsome and amazing, so I'll just give a basic brief rundown of what people are wearing. But Lexi is wearing like a black plunging neck dress, and it's kind of tight. Whitney is wearing like a light teal kind of silky dress, and it's short, like above the knee. It's really pretty. Georgina is wearing a flared kind of like mesh see-through dress, and then the top is black, and it's like a sweetheart neckline, and it has black polka dots throughout. It's really pretty and sparkly. Amanda's wearing, I think it's like a pantsuit, and it's like a lace, like light blue pantsuit, basically. So it's like a tank top, which is really long, and then pants that are also lace as well. Yvonne, is wearing a long-sleeved silky dress that's sort of sheer on her belly, and the color is like the color of puke. I don't know how else to describe it. It does look good on her, and I didn't even know that the color of puke could look good on anyone, but it does look good on her. But I probably would have chosen like a different green if it were me. Danielle is wearing a burgundy dress. It's kind of halter topped, and it covers her plunging belly, and then it has open arms, and it has a slit up the side. So that looks really cute. The guys are just like guys, basically. We have 3 men in white pants. We have Kenny wearing white pants, Kyle wearing white pants, Gavin wearing white pants. Kenny is wearing a green jacket that looks good on him. Andrea is wearing like a light gray jacket and black pants that looks good on him. Owen has like an all navy number top, the head to toe, looks really good. Gavin and Nick are both wearing kind of like t-shirts, dress shirt t-shirts with like dress pants. But Kyle Cook is wearing an orange suit jacket. And Kyle's been a little out there with his fashion lately, right? He did wear that suit jacket or the entire suit to Nick and Yvonne's wedding that was like blue with like bugs on it. So, he likes to experiment with his fashion. I feel like the orange is giving Dumb and Dumber. I don't love the orange on him, but, not everybody can win every fashion session, right? You know what I'm saying? But anyways, that's what we had there. And then basically this fight broke out on Threads on Tuesday, which was the day that In the City episode aired. So basically Queens of Bravo, which is a very big Bravo account, known by Bravo, known by all the Bravo fans, known by the Bravo Lebs as well. And she was posting clips from the show. And there was something about the clip. It was something about the room situation, which we will talk about when we get into the episode. The room situation of Kenny offering Nick and Yvonne the room on the trip, but Lindsay and Georgina wanted the room. And then Lindsay had some sort of response to it. I did end up missing this, and then Queens of Bravo took it down. But I basically have the aftermath. So here's the aftermath. So then Queens of Bravo posts another clip from the show. And Lindsay responds to that and says, wait, so you deleted your other post and reposted it because I commented on it? Okay, here we go again. Kenny and Whitney had the biggest room in the house, the only one with an ensuite bathroom. If Kenny was so concerned with giving Yvonne and Nick a gesture, why not offer their room? And Queens of Bravo responded, no, I corrected what I said. Originally, I had said big room. The video shows Kenny offering them first pick. You and Georgina weren't okay with giving your best friend first pick. Is this not what happened in the video? The Kenny part you can take up with him. I'm just describing what I saw in the video and advertising your show that just reached another series low in the overnight ratings. Queen. So that was probably not good. I don't like that last part. It's just like, okay, first you're defending yourself, but then like making the comment that the show has such low ratings, it's like a dig, right? Like it is, right? And like, I would not want to get in a fight with Lindsay Hubbard. So then Lindsay Hubbard ends up posting a series of threads after the fact. And she says the following. Consider this a formal PSA. If you are a Bravo fan account and 90% of your posts and clips are to entice hate towards any at Bravo TV talent when their shows are airing, that is called cyberbullying. It's okay to have opinions. That's the point of us putting our lives on TV. Different journeys invite different perspectives from the audience. But when the majority of your clips and posts are directed towards one person in an extremely negative way, it reaches a point of obsession and bullying. I know more than most what we signed up for. I have shared every part of my journey to my ability for the past 10 years. We appreciate the Bravo fan accounts and Bravoholics who share their opinions and create conversations respectfully. However, there is a line. This line has been increasingly crossed with me for years from this account, and it's unacceptable. We need to be better as humans towards each other. We live in weird times, and the least we can do is enjoy Bravo with respect to the human beings that are opening up their lives. Thanks. So I don't know exactly if there was something that was posted specifically that was derogatory towards Lindsay. And the way that she is speaking makes it sound like there have been many posts over the years from this account that have been derogatory towards her. I can't speak to that because I haven't seen that. It's not something I was specifically looking for. But I will say that Queens of Bravo is a huge Danielle stan. Lindsay Hubbard is not so much of a Danielle stan. And so maybe that's where a lot of their contention actually lies, in the whole fact that Queens of Bravo is always supporting and rooting for Danielle. And that could sometimes be to the opposite of whatever is going on with Lindsay, right? That being said, I still wouldn't want to get in a fight with Lindsay. I do love how she's so chronically online lately. Like, I literally posted on Threads the other day saying something like, does anyone ever reward themselves with fettuccine Alfredo? And she responded to that. Like, it wasn't even Bravo related. She's just like chronically online. So I don't know. It's a difficult dance that we have as content creators, because I mean, for me specifically, I want to do this for fun. I want to engage an audience, but I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I would never want that. That's why sometimes I wish the Bravo Lebs didn't follow us. But then even then, it just doesn't work like that in the Bravo community, because someone will still send it to that Bravo Leb. So there's sort of no way to avoid them seeing what we're saying about them. But at the same time, we want to be able to have the discourse, right? Threads, which I love, sort of makes that even more difficult in a sense, because it's like this open forum where if you talk about Lindsay Hubbard, she's likely going to see it just because that's how Threads is. I mean, I saw someone post about how much they hated a particular podcaster, and then that podcaster responded, right? So it's kind of funny. But like, I don't know. I would probably try to avoid getting in a fight with Lindsay if it were me, but that is just me. Okay, let's get into the episode. And we're only going to be talking about the episode from about 15 minutes inwards because the first 15 minutes of the episode was basically just fluff. It was the cast getting ready for the trip, and it was them going to play paintball, which has nothing to do with anything. So we'll start with the room situation, which is our major theme, which is our first major theme and plot point. So basically, what happens is that Lindsay and Georgina get to the house first. So they go to Connecticut. I don't know if I mentioned that first. This is a cast trip to Connecticut. The cast is going to Connecticut. Lindsay and Georgina get there first, and they take the primary room. Then Kenny gets there and he has this discussion with Whitney where he's like, I think it would be really nice if we offered the primary room to Yvonne and Nick because they sort of had that shitty wedding dinner. And I think it would be a nice gesture. So when Yvonne gets there, Kenny mentions this to Yvonne, but I don't think anyone realized that Georgina and Lindsay were already there. And so they sort of poke their heads out and they're like, well, we've taken the primary room. We're two moms and we never get time away with our kids. So it's definitely very awkward in this moment. Now, Lindsay tells the camera that she and Georgina are the only ones not in a couple, but they have to sleep together, so they need a bigger bed. Plus, she says it's a whole level of exhaustion that the non-moms don't understand. Now, when it comes to that, I completely agree because if everyone is a couple, right, the only ones who are sort of in a different situation are Georgina and Lindsay, where they do need that additional space because it would be weird for them to sleep in sort of like a twin bed or something like that together. And yeah, they are moms. And listen, everyone on this trip is in an established couple. They've been in a couple for a long time. And so nobody's in like a honeymoon stage. Even Yvonne and Nick, like, let's be honest, that was your third freaking wedding. And it was a sort of a fake wedding. It was a wedding dinner that was probably put on by Bravo in production because you're required to put on an event as a cast member, right? So you probably wouldn't even be having that wedding dinner if not for the show. So does it really matter that your wedding dinner was ruined when you've had a real wedding dinner a couple of years ago? You've been married for 2 years. So why do you guys deserve the primary suite when you've been married for 2 years? You know what I mean? Now, Lexi and Whitney end up going off to talk about this in another room. And Whitney says that she feels like Lindsay always plays a single mom card when there's really so many people out there who can't have nannies and don't have families or friends around to support them. Whitney, no. Bye, Whitney. Bye. I think you're done on the show, sweetheart. Not only did you just come for Mother Hubbard, but you came really hard and really badly. Because listen, if you know anything about Lindsay, you know that Lindsay does not have a relationship with her mother. So to make a comment and say that not everybody has family around, Lindsay doesn't have family around. Her dad and stepmom live in Florida, so she literally does not have family around. Yes, she has a nanny. Yes, she has a baby daddy. Yes, she has friends, but she is a single mom and she doesn't have family around. She's literally living in a city where she has to rely on lots of other kinds of people to help her with her kid. She is in a different situation. She doesn't have a mom who can just drive down the street and pick up her kid whenever she wants to. I think even though she doesn't make it seem that way, I think that filming for Lindsay probably is difficult. Like she has a baby daddy who has been really helpful with her when she has to go on like these filming situations or when she has to go to certain events and stuff. But like that isn't easy. And that isn't something that's just sort of assumed or implied when you have a live-in partner, right? So I think that Whitney is being sort of unfair in this regard. And I think that Lexi sort of notices that as well, because she's like, well, I don't really feel like I've ever seen Lindsay pull like the single mom card, or I've never seen her do that often. And Whitney's like, well, I just sort of feel like she sort of acts like she's above everyone else, and that's what I don't like. I feel like Lindsay and Whitney and Kenny got off to a weird first start in a way, because I really don't feel like Lindsay was ever doing anything specifically to Whitney. I feel like when she brought up that situation to Kenny about like, it's a big deal to have someone move across the country without a ring, was it to create a little drama and storyline? Probably, but it's also just like her feelings. And it was also something more so to defend Whitney in a sense, right? Like she's saying like, you should be giving this to Whitney. She was being a girl's girl, in my opinion, right? I don't think she's been mean to Whitney in any way that we've seen whatsoever. And then this one clip that Whitney is sort of referring to as like this other time when Lindsay pulled a mom card, it was on the trolley. And it was something about how Kenny had wanted the girls to be more open to Whitney and spend time with her. And Lindsay said, and I followed up with you the next day, but then I was busy with XYZ, having a kid, whatever. Okay, yeah, when you're a single mom and on a show and having a job and doing a million other things, your first priority isn't somebody else's girlfriend that you barely know. You'll make time for her when you make time for her, but it seems like she has, right? So I don't know. I feel like Whitney has a particular resentment towards Lindsay for reasons that I don't necessarily think are super, I don't want to say valid because everybody's allowed to have their opinion on everybody, but like it's the whole like minions thing and like what's the other thing that Kenny called her? Like just acting and talking about Lindsay as if she tries to control the group, which I really don't get the vibe of. Is Lindsay a person who can be kind of controlling and kind of like the loud person in a room? Sure. But she's never really tried to like get an entire group of people to agree with her in the way that Kenny talks about. And I feel like Whitney is sort of like latched on to the way that Kenny has sort of talked about that and continued to think about Lindsay in this way because I just don't really feel like the other girls think of Lindsay in this way. Now, in terms of the room, when it comes to Kyle and Amanda, they end up sleeping in a room with two twin beds. Now, this is so funny because Amanda's like, well, we are living separately, but we're married. And I would rather sleep in a bed with him than sleep in these two single beds. It's like we're in the kids' room. And it's like, the fuck are you talking about, Amanda? You haven't slept with this man in a sexual way in 4 years, but you want to sleep in the same bed with him? And then later she says, like, oh, I kind of wish I had my own room. Nobody has their own room, Amanda. Okay. Like, this is a cast trip with like couples, basically. And, except for Georgina and Lindsay. And like, aren't you supposed to be trying during this period of time to make your relationship work? Because I feel like we haven't really seen anything during the filming of In the City where Kyle and Amanda are working on their relationship, either of them, quite frankly. Our second major theme of this episode is Kyle's butt. And this is a really, really important plot point. Okay. So basically, here's what's going on with Kyle's butt. He went to visit his parents in New Hampshire. His dad said, I have been having the most marvelous poops, my son. I don't even need toilet paper. You need to follow my ways. His dad was like, I am taking fiber supplements. So then Kyle's like, I'm going to take fiber supplements too. But of course, he's Kyle and he has to do everything to the millionth degree. And he takes 4 times the recommended dosage. This leads to basically his ass ripping. He gets an anal fissure and he is in so much pain. So he spends a good majority of the trip to Connecticut in the tub. This was pretty funny. I really enjoyed this little comic relief and how basically after he told his dad what happened, his dad was like, oh, well, I also use like stool softeners, son. I don't know. Perfect comic relief for this episode. Then we move on to a scene with Yvonne and Lindsay talking about their friendship. And I thought this was a really interesting scene. So basically, Yvonne expresses to Lindsay that she was upset with the way that Lindsay was acting at her third wedding dinner, right? She felt like Lindsay was enticing a lot of the fighting that was going on at the table. And she felt like it should have been Lindsay being supportive at the dinner and trying to calm everyone down. Now, Lindsay, on the other hand, she feels like Yvonne's expectations for her are sort of unfair and how she blames her for everything. And she felt like Yvonne was piling everything onto her, like it's all Lindsay's fault. Everything has to do with Lindsay. Yvonne ends up saying, like, all I want from you, Lindsay, is just acknowledgement that the night sucked and that you're sorry. So Lindsay ends up agreeing to that. And she says, like, I just want you to understand, though, regardless, like, I felt piled up on. Yvonne tells the camera that since having a baby, her friendship with Lindsay has changed. She said that they both find each other a little bit annoying, like separately. And Yvonne feels like Lindsay thinks that her stuff is bigger. So they're sort of trying to figure out how to fit in each other's lives right now. And I think this is something that a lot of people end up having to deal with in their friendships, right? These two have been friends for 16 years. That's a really long time. And they've gone through probably different phases of life together. But now they're going through such a different season of life where Lindsay is a mom. And they even showed at the beginning of this season where Yvonne would be calling Lindsay late at night and being like, hey, do you want to go to a club at 11? And Lindsay's like, I can't, I'm a mom. So that's probably where the like annoying part comes in. I think there definitely needs to be more understanding on both sides. I feel like Yvonne needs to understand the changes that are happening in Lindsay's life and just sort of accept them. That's how I've been with my friends that are moms. Like if I just expect them to be late or to cancel or to not be as reliable, that's just sort of how I reconcile those friendships. Because I feel like if I had those same higher expectations that I have for my friends without kids, that wouldn't really be fair. And then I feel like if Lindsay is acting like her stuff is bigger, then maybe she needs to recognize that everybody has their own stuff and it's equal to everybody, but everybody, like obviously Lindsay's child is the biggest thing to her, but I'm sure there's something in Yvonne's life that is just as big and just as important, right? And Lindsay ends up explaining to Yvonne, like, listen, the reason our friendship has always worked is we've always been really real with each other. And that's what I want to be able to continue doing with you. And I agree with that. I feel like Lindsay is a very blunt person. And in order to be in a friendship with her, you almost need to be able to give that right back and have those real conversations. So Lindsay was able to say, like, I'm sorry that the night sucked and that me getting involved in the Kyle and Amanda of it all was part of that night. And that was enough. That's sort of all she needed. Then we move on to Kyle and Amanda's relationship, and this is discussed over dinner amongst the entire cast, basically. So it starts with Gavin telling everyone that Kyle has booked 14 DJ gigs, and he's supposed to be saying this like it's a good thing. We should be congratulating Kyle. But of course, as per usual, it doesn't seem like Amanda knows about this. Gavin is such a pot stirrer. Like he literally is. He just brings up things that he knows are going to upset people. And so in a sense, I feel like he is such good reality TV. He's very, very messy. And he says the things that you're not supposed to say out loud, which is what you are supposed to do on reality TV. I actually remember Brock, Sheena's husband, mentioning this when he started on the show. It was in some interview. He said, they say the quiet part out loud. That's what I learned was the difference between like real life and the show. The things that you typically say on the inside, you're supposed to say on the outside, right? So I feel like Gavin was given that same advice. It sort of sounds like. Now, Amanda, as I said, is like, what the fuck? I didn't know about this. And Kyle's like, I have told you about this a million times. I've been telling you about this since March. Now, Amanda tells the camera that Kyle's actions prove that he's not really trying. But then the guys at the table, they kind of talk about how they think Amanda hasn't really tried. And I agree in both regards. Like, I really feel like I said earlier, I don't feel like either of them have been trying. I don't feel like we've seen anything on either end in terms of trying to come back together in any sense. This seems to be like one of the first, the only times that they seem to be really seeing each other post separation are for filming instances, and they're not really like that engaged during those times. So I would put that blame on both of them. And then we get this really interesting revelation from Owen, who has basically been a mute, right? Like he doesn't want to talk about his divorce. He doesn't want to talk to these people because they're kind of rude to him, but he does decide to speak up. And he's like, basically the same thing happened to me. I feel like my marriage went down the exact same route where if you can't stop talking about the past and that's all you guys are focused on, it's done. It's just done. Now, I found that really fascinating, but also it was almost harsh in a way, especially from someone that doesn't know them. It was a harsh revelation, but it was a very true one, to the point where Amanda gets like a physical reaction to it and her body starts shaking and she has to walk away. And I feel like that was the moment for her where she realized her marriage was truly over. I really feel like that was the moment because I feel like the physical reaction is what sort of epitomized that for her. And then Lindsay goes over to check on her, and Amanda says she feels like as her partner, she checks with Kyle on everything, but she feels like he doesn't do the same. And then she's told she's not supportive when something is sprung on her. I totally understand what she's saying there, but I don't really know the ins and outs. And I feel like none of us do. I feel like Kyle has said that he will try to express things to her and she won't listen. I also do kind of feel like when it comes to the DJing, he knows what she's going to say. So what's the point in telling her? I mean, remember what happened at the Freedom Dinner at Summer House, right? Like that's why Lindsay even sort of jumped in at this dinner when this situation gets brought up. She's like, oh God, oh no, not the DJing again. We're not talking about this again, because she knows what's about to happen, right? That being said, for her to say like, as my partner, I tell Kyle everything and I get his opinion. And it's like, do you though? Because with like moving out, she basically made that decision on her own. She decided to get the 1-year lease on her own. She decided to get an unfurnished place on her own. Like all of those things were her decisions that Kyle was not involved in, to the point where even her parents were like, oh, I thought Kyle was involved in this decision to separate. And it wasn't. It was fully hers, right? So I don't know that she necessarily discusses like absolutely everything with him. But regardless, they definitely have major communication issues. We've heard Kyle talk about how Amanda won't ask him anything, but then Amanda says, I shouldn't have to ask. You should be telling me. Regardless, they're not communicating. Like it doesn't seem like whether Kyle thinks he told Amanda or whether Amanda thinks he should be telling her more things. It doesn't seem like Amanda is aware of all of these gigs that he has going on. And she's not going to be happy with it anyway, so it sort of is what it is. Then you have Andrea sort of jumping in with his opinion on marriage. And he's like, as a married man, you should be going home early. And everyone's sort of talking about how like 2:45 a.m. in New York is like early. And that basically is like staying home. And Andrea's like, it's not. You're a married man. You should be going home early. Kyle ends up getting really upset about this. And he's like, listen, man, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. And in all fairness, he's right, right? Like Andrea's been married, what, like a year? You are in like happy bliss. You're in the honeymoon stage. Kyle's like, talk to me in 10 years. And he's absolutely right. Like, he has absolutely no idea what's going on in the ins and outs of their relationship. We know, like, it seems so simple. It seems like, Kyle, why don't you just stay home, which is what your wife wants, and then your marriage will work out. And it's not exactly that. We've heard Kyle say that he believes that Amanda wants him not to be home, that she doesn't even speak to him when they are home together, right? So I really don't think it's that simple. I think it's at the point, sort of like Owen said, where the communication is so bad and things are so strained that it's just over, right? Having these conversations about what Kyle should do or what Amanda should do at this point are just so moot because this whole thing is just so over. Lindsay comes back to the table and she basically ends up trying to like fight for Amanda, saying that she feels like Amanda has done a lot to meet Kyle in the middle. I don't necessarily agree with that there, but then she gives the point that she believes that Kyle has cheated on Amanda a million times and she has always stayed, which to me is not her giving a little. That's not her meeting him in the middle, right? Like, not at all. But regardless, like, what are we even talking about? What are we even talking about, Lindsay? Because now I'm so confused because she's basically like, he's cheated on her a bunch of times. She turns to Danielle, who gives sort of like a knowing glance as well. And she's like, but we don't talk about it. We're not allowed to talk about it. And that's basically where the episode ends. But it just left me with all of these questions like, wait, what? Like, did we always think that Kyle was cheating on Amanda? Probably. But then we've had these conversations as of late. We've had so many of these conversations as of late. I mean, in the reunion for Summer House, Lindsay sort of gives the impression that she doesn't really believe that Kyle cheated after the marriage, but I don't know if that's because we were at a different point with Wes and Amanda and she just wanted to support Kyle. We know that Amanda said that there was like a video out there from not long after they got married where we don't even know what's in the video. She said there was one where he was flirting with a girl and asked to kiss her, but I don't know if Amanda actually has a video of him kissing anyone. But I don't think that's what Lindsay is talking about. What is she talking about? I mean, if I were to put money on it, I think we all know about the official time that Kyle cheated, where he slept with somebody else. And this was a year before they got engaged. He was drunk off of his ass. It was Everett that ended up telling Amanda, if I'm not mistaken. And this all came up on the show, right? So we definitely know about that. But there was another incident that Lindsay ends up bringing up. And she said that it had happened a few months prior. I think this was in season 4 of Summer House. She said that a friend of hers saw Kyle making out with someone. And then the situation ended up blowing up to where Amanda asked Kyle to like find the girl and ask her if it happened. And the girl said it didn't happen. And so I thought we left it there. But maybe that's what she's talking about. Maybe Lindsay always believed that that situation happened and that he did cheat on her then. Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was either a friend of hers that he was making out with or a friend of hers that saw it. So a pretty good source. And so maybe because of that, when she says that he's cheated on her so many times, she's talking about like the 2 times, including this second time. Or sorry, maybe she's talking about the first time he cheated that we all know about, then this second time that she believes happened, and then the time with the video that she's probably aware of that Amanda told her a long time ago, and we only just found out about on the reunion. So I don't know, but I hope we get more on this. Now, this does come up a little bit on Watch What Happens Live. Georgina is the guest and Lindsay is in the audience. First, they talk about the room situation, or Georgina explains that she did think it was a nice gesture to give Nick and Yvonne the room, but she already had half of her stuff unpacked, so it would be weird for her to like repack it. And I agree, right? Like, it would be one thing if everyone sort of arrived to the house and they were all deciding, but given the fact that Lindsay and Georgina were already in the room, they've already half unpacked, it would be just as awkward for them to like repack it up as it would to be like give Yvonne the room. So it was just like a very awkward circumstance. Georgina agrees that Kyle has cheated on Amanda several times. I don't know where she got that information. She didn't really expand on that. And then when Lindsay is asked about it by Andy, because he's like, you're the one that said it, she was like, all I can say is that I cannot confirm or deny, and it's something that we do not talk about. It's something that we can't talk about. Well, that makes me want to talk about it more, Lindsay. I want to know about it more. Now, she says that she's very online, which we know. And with regards to Summer House, it's going to be a hot single summer. And this was in response to basically anything that Andy threw at her with regards to Matt James, because I did mention a couple days ago that she was seen kind of getting flirty with Matt James at a PR party. So that was her response to that. It's a hot single summer. And with regards to Amanda, Georgina says that she's spoken to Amanda, who said that she regrets her mistake. And when Andy says, what was the mistake? She says, dating West. And Georgina said, okay, well, we can fix that. We can fix that mistake. You can just stop doing it now. And apparently that just fell on deaf ears and it didn't end well, which sort of gives me the impression that her and Georgina are not on good terms. So I'm very interested to see more on that, hear more on the reunion. But like this cheating thing, like it's so weird because like I said, we always thought of Kyle as a cheater. And then this incident happened with Amanda and Wes, and we sort of changed our entire mentality on Kyle. And now we're like rooting for Kyle. We love Kyle. And that even sort of changed the mentality at the Summer House reunion. I sort of felt like when Andy asked the group, like, are we aware of Kyle cheating during marriage? The whole group was pretty silent. While I feel like if the Wes and Amanda thing hadn't have happened, I feel like there would have been more momentum on that. But I feel like people were so team Kyle that it was just sort of silent on that front. I feel like Lindsay's not a liar. She can sometimes be an exaggerator. But I feel like if she says that he's cheated on her so many times, I believe her. And I just want to know if we're ever going to find out more information about that, because we're almost at the end of In the City. So if it doesn't come up on the reunion, I don't know that it ever will. Because remember, Kyle and Amanda are divorced now, right? Or they're separated and they're going to get a divorce. So when would this ever come up again? But I feel like it's important for us to know as the Bravo fandom. So I do hope we find out soon. Okay, you guys, that is the end of the episode. I will see you tomorrow. But until then, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. You can watch this episode on YouTube. So subscribe over to the YouTube channel and join the Facebook group. And I love you, BBs. I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and join the Facebook page. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a 5-star review.